don't hire a sales rep right away. You,
Yeah, say more
that's
about that.
the biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake that you can make, because now what you think you're doing, I've heard this so many times, what you actually think you're doing is you think you're hiring a sales rep to come in and figure out the sales process, when you yourself have never staged, codified, or figure out your own sales process. So you have nothing to delegate to them.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Tom talking along with our co-host, Alex Palomero, and we are Stack to Scale.
Stack to Scale, baby. Here we are with Steve Wallace. Excited. Yes.
We're excited. We have Steve Wallace. Hey, Steve, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Good to see you guys.
Steve's a friend of the family, friend of the company, and we're excited to talk about this. It's a Friday. We're all kind of casually dressed.
You said it wrong. It's Friday.
Friday.
Yeah,
Friday. Right. We always like send each other pictures of happy hour and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see
on Friday
pictures I'm going to get from the two of you guys.
Yep.
Hey, let's jump into it. So Steve and I have been friends for some time, and we're also some business colleagues. So I don't think it would be fair for me to describe, Steve, your background. So why don't you give people a little taste of who you are, and then I will jump into some of the questions I've got for you today.
Yeah, I have to be careful here so I don't take the whole episode. But I think the short version of who I am is I'm a positive guy, man of faith, family man first, family, friends, faith, church, fun, sports, and a little bit of whiskey every now and again kind of guy. And I came up in insurance sales at a 1099, 100% commission shop, and that taught me everything I needed to know about what not to do in sales. Everybody was probably expecting a different type of plug there. It didn't teach me everything I know. It taught me everything what I didn't know. But the interesting thing is I'm big on studying the negative. And so when I studied the negative, I flipped it, learned about what should be done. And then slowly over time, DIY'd myself into a pretty half decent salesperson, a study, an academic, and a practitioner, to steal a word from our friend Tom Tonkin over here, and turned those into some systems that I then taught to some other people, some other advisors and agents I was training, and then they did well. And that was interesting. So I said, there's something going on here. So I packaged some data, about a year of data of my success stories and their success stories. And I brought that data to my agency leadership and said, hey, I want to use this data and build a training curriculum around it. And I want to make this the recruiting pitch for our agency. The pitch is, hey, this is where you go if you really want to build out a scalable practice, kind of relevant for today, right? And they laughed me out of the room.
How many of us have been laughed out of the room, right?
I mean, it sounds worse than it was, but they told me this is not how you're going to be successful, Steve. And my polite response was okay, but in my brain it was screw you. Yes, it is. And so that's what I did. I opened my business and built it on the lessons that insurance didn't teach me.
And what kind of clients are you working with? Because we've partnered on a number of projects together, but what kind of clients are you focused on?
A lot of them are the high ticket financial advisors, exit planners, business brokers. These are people who deal with big picture money and are solving big picture money problems for clients. But that said, I mean, B2B marketing and salespeople, if you're a professional service, you can't hold what you sell in your hands. There's a pretty good likelihood that we can help you out. And I love it. Give me a big, complicated business development challenge, and I love to untangle it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where we synced up, right? Because Ninestone serves a lot of professional service clients, and we were looking for additional sales capacity to support these clients and ourselves, right? So Steve, it's been really a pleasure working with you, and learning.
Likewise.
Holy cow, right? Because I didn't come from sales. I came from a fundraising and marketing background. Fundraising is very much sales, but doesn't have, if you say sales as a fundraiser, that's bad. But really
Right.
it's that idea of like having a case for why someone should support an organization and the mission and the programming of an organization. And that's very similar to sales. So that's kind of how I got into it, right? Dovetailed
Right.
into
Yeah.
it. but not
Yeah.
as a professional like you two. I didn't have that professional training, so I learned a lot from y'all.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate the different perspectives, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted Steve to have you on the call. I think you and I have lots of similarities, and I go back to the Johari window, and I'm going to leave that for our listeners to look up. Um, but what the fun part is the things that you know that we don't know. And so I want to dive into some what I would call outliers, things that I don't necessarily, or even Alex necessarily understands or deals with. And I was reviewing your LinkedIn posts and background because it's always interesting. You're a very authentic person online, and so sometimes people would say, "Well,
Thank you.
what can you possibly learn from somebody reading their LinkedIn?" That's true.
Mm,
There's a lot of people that you wouldn't, but in your case, Steve,
fair.
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so I wanted to ask you a question, right? You talk about building sales systems around what you're, and I'm using Steve's words, business owners' style, right? Putting them back into control instead of chasing leads and hustling endlessly. So I was
Yes.
wondering,
Yeah.
can you let's riff on that. Let's narrate on that statement.
He's ready. Here he comes. He's ready.
Let's
He's
go.
stretching.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, we all say we're different. We're really not. We all have way more in common, Tom, than we say we do. But that said, there are people in the world that they fall into different personality archetypes and characteristics, and there's those that don't like to cold call or are too afraid to and never will. Okay. For me to, and I'm answering your question in a roundabout way, Dr. Tom, but for me to position a cold calling system around a business owner who is horrified of the concept of cold calling and there's no coaching him out of it, there's no fixing it. What's the likelihood that that is a long-term successful process for him or her? Extremely
Yeah,
low,
very
right?
low, and obviously, yep,
Extremely low, right?
sure.
So at that rate, that this business owner that we're speaking about has to either hire it out so they never have to worry about it, or we have to do something different. And this is a concept that I'm presenting. It's not specific to cold calling. Take cold calling and swap it out for another variable. Maybe it's networking. Some people hate networking, but they're like, I'll do cold outreach all day. Some people will only network. Some want referrals, cold emailing, whatever. There is a style and design of a system for every single personality archetype out there. And most of my meetings, I was in a 35-minute meeting this morning. 28 minutes of it was around learning about the style and archetype of the person I was speaking with. And Tom, stealing another word of yours, calibrating, because if I position a service for this person that will send them running to the hills in 60 days, even if the results are great, they're going to regret that payment coming out of their account every month. That sounds bad for everybody. So a lot of what I do is spending time figuring out what the right process is for somebody. And if I can politely push back on somebody and say, "Hey, Alex, like you have the skills, you have the mentality to do this, even though you're afraid of it. We should do that, right? Can you work with me here and suck it up and work 50% more on cold calling?" And if the answer is yes, then cool.
Yeah, let me I wanna keep going down a different path, right? Because I mean, you're asking this question. So here's the thing. Um, you go back to sort of my history where it was all sort of what I would call sort of sophisticated sales. Did a lot of training and enablement, and most of my audience were people that wanted to learn how to sell. Whether or not they had the skill or all the desire or whatever needed, that was up for debate, right? That was my problem to
Right.
transform them. And there was a sea of people giving all sorts of advice in LinkedIn, online, everybody else, all the sales gurus that go on, and I fancied myself as one of those guys. Um, but it was really noisy, right? There was a lot of things that I kinda disagreed with, and I landed in a
Right.
place where there's a group of what I called underserved people that go, I don't wanna learn how to sell. I don't wanna do
Mm,
cold calling, I don't wanna do networking. I just want to do my thing, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be accounting or and Steve, Alex, you guys know a couple of those people that we've dealt with.
Couple.
that consider a success in networking is walking out of that room not talking to anyone. That was literally a quote, by the way, from somebody.
No, really?
It was. It was literally a quote, and it was kind of a half chuckle, like, "I understand what I said, but I meant it," kind of
Wow.
thing.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
right?
That
So
makes
so Steve, let's focus in on those folks, and how do you work with them? Now, mind you, the theme has always been for us is stack the scale, right? Because here's the thing, everybody wants to scale, right? But there's the stacking part
Yeah, or at
that
least
you
grow,
right?
right? They at least want more business, even if it's not like kind of scalable, even if it's slow. No one will say to us, I don't want to grow, but they will regularly tell us, Steve, no, I don't want to reach out. I don't want to email people. I don't want to cold call. Cold call is like, whoa, really bad news in professional services, right?
I
I
Is
only
know.
there
want to
some
go to
other way
Wild.
we could do that?
right. I only want to go to networking events where all the people I talk to are qualified sales.
No, not
No,
only that, all the people I talk to, I know.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they all become
I want to be in my comfort zone. I never want to step out of the comfort zone, and I expect my comfort zone to stay the size that it's at, and for my business to get bigger.
yeah. And why can't marketing just send me people that are everybody I talk to, I could just spend 15 minutes with them and get a client. And I know I'm being kind of silly, but there's some truth to this,
But not really, Alex,
right?
right? But not
That's
really.
well, you know what it is. What Alex is explaining is this concept that I hear a lot, right? Which is like the purpose of networking is to get clients. And and Alex, you nailed it actually. It sounds silly because what you've done is you've put it in context. Outside of context, it sounds normal. Outside of context, people say I network to find clients, and that's not correct, right? Yeah, the way to network is to build a net that works and brings people to you.
Let's talk about those folks, and we're kinda tongue in cheek, folks, because honestly, if it weren't for those folks, maybe Steve and I and Alex would not have a business, right? Because that is what we do. We are I wouldn't sales is not a job, and sales is not a, what do I call it? A career for us. For us, sales is a craft, right? Which is that next level, and so we wanna serve those people. So, Steve, let's go down this path. I wanna tease it out of you. Tell me and talk to me about those people that really bring up a good point. I wanna grow without all this other stuff changing.
Well, first of all, let's set the record straight. Those people are high premium people. There's two ways you can do this. And this is for listeners who might be evaluating, how they're going to grow their business or their practice. All the stuff that we're about to talk about right here, right now, this is not the cheapest stuff in the world because what you're talking about is getting other people to do all the work for you. You can pay for things two ways, time or money. That's it. Right. So let's set the record straight there. But if you want everybody to do the stuff for you so that you have a frictionless sales process so that a deal shows up in your calendar, or even better, a check shows up in your bank account that you don't even know anything about, that's gonna cost some money. But what I think I appreciate most about these people, and because let's back off the money side of things. What I appreciate most about these people is they're singular. They think I am great at this. Why would I do anything but this? And when we talk about scale, I mean, guys, what I think scale is a buzzword, right? Everybody's throwing it out there and it means something different to everybody. Sometimes AI puts it out into its documents. It doesn't even mean what it's supposed to mean. In my eyes, scaling is about putting yourself in the position to make the most money in the least amount of time and let everybody else do their thing to keep you in that position so that you can continue making money.
It's a great definition. It really is.
Yeah, so singular people, like professional services is loaded with founders, CEOs, presidents just like this. Most of them are. So we work with fractional CFOs. They're very good at what they do. right? We work with partners at accounting firms. They're all good at what they do, but they don't do everything, right? And they don't want to do everything. We work with people in insurance and attorneys and niche attorneys, right? They all want to focus on their efforts. And the more we as a team can help them enable them to focus on their singular expertise, the better, because a lot of these folks bill at an hourly rate, like take an attorney, right? Or an accountant. And so for them to be spending time on qualifying sales leads really is not the best use of their business
It
resource.
erodes at their hourly rate. They might charge an hourly rate to one customer at an hour or 2 or 3 hour clip, but if they're prospecting and qualifying, disqualifying, and doing all the things that we would do, they can't meet as many people. They can't do it as fast. It takes longer. It erodes at their hourly rate from the bottom, not the top.
And it erodes their valuation as a business. So many clients come to us saying, I'm the owner and I have to get out of the business so someone will want to buy it without a 3-year earnout, right? So that the business, so the more the business owner is out of the business, the systems work without them, including sales, right? Then that is one of the major factors, and there are many factors, right? But one of the major factors in the valuation of that business. Someone is willing to buy a business that can run without an owner because a system's in place. Most businesses never sell, statistically, and that's because most professional service businesses are, an owner, a founder, maybe 2 partners, and there aren't systems that scale, including sales, including marketing.
Right. The parallels are remarkable, right? We think sales as a craft, to take more from Dr. Tom, and we think running a business don't run in parallel, but in fact, sales and marketing, like you guys do, makes the business continue to run despite the fact that the business owner might not be involved or takes a step away or decides to go on vacation. For God's sake, let's not go on vacation, guys.
Sure.
Right? Like, when was the last time you spoke with a
Wait.
business owner and said, were you able to take a 2-week vacation?
Yeah, yeah, and okay, and vacation meaning like, hey, you didn't work, right?
Bingo.
Like
Right. Did not.
when I
Yeah.
founded
Yeah.
Ninestone, I took vacation, right? But I woke up at 4 a.m. every morning of vacation and worked till 8 a.m. when my kids woke up. And then they went to bed, and then I worked after they went to bed, and I did that every day for vacation for like the first couple years.
Right. Right.
That-
And I'm laughing because I've done that myself.
I know, right?
Yep.
So I mean,
Now Alex just willy-nilly goes and he doesn't check his phone or his
Right.
email like a big slacker.
Well, that's because he is you now, Tom.
right? Yeah, but Steve, you now play in this world, right? So tell us more about what that's like and finding the right kind of, um, creating a system for those folks.
So I can share from experience, right? So what we've done is I follow some rules that relates to budget. And the rule goes something like this: I don't lose money on deals, right? So in order to do that, I do not make a purchase until a new deal comes in. Even if it's a game-changing purchase, I don't make an excuse for it. I'm like, nope, it's not getting paid for until a new deal comes in. So I'm always paying for a deal with new incoming money. That preserves margins. And then same exact idea. So an investment or purchase could also be bringing on an employee or paying them more, whatever the case may be, right? So I also don't give new responsibilities or find or hire somebody until a new deal is basically in the committed mark, all right, and the deal is coming in. And what that's created for me is the ability to put people in seats. And I just install somebody. It's a word I use a lot. I bring them in. I have a process. Every prospect has an onboarding document. Every sales rep I bring on has an onboarding document. You could walk into my business today, Alex, and say, hey, who am I calling? I already have it done. What am I saying? Let's say you've never sold a thing before, which is, by the way, this is a true story. You want to talk about scaling? I brought on months ago a relatively new sales rep. She'd been in sales before, but didn't knock it out of the park, right? But she was coachable. She said that she would do the work, and brought her in, Here's who you call. Here's what you say. As long as you follow this, I don't want you to be a robot, but as long as you follow this script, it will become natural and you'll stop sounding scripted. You have to lean into it to get back out of it, right? That's a phrase I use a lot. You have to lean into a script to stop sounding scripted. And she's killing it for us now. She's our number one rep apart from me, right? So I share all that to say she didn't come in here and create processes. She came in here and she had a process. Here's who you're calling. Here's what you're saying. Here's what to do when they say this. Here's what to do when the deal schedules. Here's what to do when it closes. And now, here's a fun story. She's onboarding our new reps because she's been through the process. So if you want to talk about scalability in systems, it's all about, I think, setting expectations, knowing when you're going to do what and what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, and how you're going to do it.
So how do you
I
help
don't know if
companies
or not, but
achieve that? Professional service firms, right?
yeah. I think that's a question right back to you guys, right? But I think this just comes down to questions. So when we bring in, let's say we're going to stay in the vein of sales here for a second, right? Because we can go all over the place, business evaluation and all that stuff, right? When we are talking about a sales team, it's best to ask questions in all these realms. But hey, Alex, what's the process? Do you have a sales rep? Where are they spending all of their time? Where do you wish they were spending their time? And when you've done this long enough, you start to really know when the answers are satisfactory or not. If I say, hey, where do you get most of your business? And the answer is networking and referrals, or actually mostly referrals. Networking is great, but I find most people are not actually skilled professional networkers.
Agree.
So when you say referrals, I'm thinking, great. So you don't have a process. You've lucked into the business that you have. And that's great. That means you're doing good work. It means people think about you. I'm not knocking or criticizing referrals. But what I am saying is you don't have a repeatable, tangible process that will bring clients in. And that tells me a whole bunch of things. It tells me that you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to bring on a sales rep, because if you did have a sales rep, you'd likely have the revenue to pay a sales rep. See what I mean? You can kind of reverse engineer a lot coming out of this. Tom's eyes are like this, right? So I'm either saying something that Tom completely disagrees with, or that
Well, he'll let you know.
or that he's like, let me jump in. But there's a lot you can
I
extrapolate.
agree with you, or else I would have cut you off.
I think there's a lot you can extrapolate from your conversations and from my conversations with prospects. And Alex, I'm really careful when I ask these questions. Hey, what's your sales process? Tell me about the first instant when you spoke with your last prospect, the very first time. How did it happen? Was it introduction to you? Was it a random connection on LinkedIn? Just walk me through the whole journey. Is that replicatable? If the answer is no, or even close, it's not that we have a problem, but it's not clear. And we have to flip that around. We have to make it very, very clear.
And when you say replicatable, you're not talking about like me. Hey, you're not saying to me, like I can replicate my own stuff, the way I do things. You're saying,
Right.
hey, Alex, do you have another team member who could do it as good as you or better? Right.
Yes.
And get them going right away.
Yeah.
Right. And if
Right.
the answer to that is no, because I'm the guy, then you've made your point. Right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have a sales
That's the idea.
process. I mean, Tom will say everyone has a sales process, right? But it's not necessarily a scalable process where I can hire new people quickly and get them
That's a
going.
fair point.
Well,
Yeah.
again, I've always said, right, if you have a client, you had a sales process.
Maybe you haven't quantified it. Maybe you haven't codified it or put it in
Maybe it's
stages, but
just,
you
or
have.
maybe it's a terrible, crappy process, but you got one.
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't mean that it's going to provide the growth that we're talking about as developing a sales team, right, or a team of BDRs or things like this. And and there's a mentality. I do have a question about mentality for you. I mean, what
Yeah. Bring
I
it.
I can tell if an owner of a company wants to grow beyond referrals or not within like a couple 30 seconds, right? They want to do it or they don't. The people who want to do it, Steve, we could work with them all day long, right? The people who say, no, I'm okay with referrals and I'm too busy for anything else, then, maybe they don't need a scalable process. Maybe that's not their business goal. But how do you deal with that? Or is that important to you?
Sure. Yeah. But I'm not sure my answer to your question is so much of a tactical or scientific. It's more personal. I don't particularly, and so I don't get along with them. I just don't see eye to eye with people who are content with status quo. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in this for impact, man. Like I'm in this for the long game. I'm a man of faith. I want people to know my faith. I want people to know the impact that a good sales and marketing process can have on their ability to impact others. I want them to experience the wow moment I got a client. And by the way, I want them to experience it without having to spend all the time doing it. So if you can grow, we're back to scalability here, but if we can grow their business and they have this wow moment and they were able to spend more time with your kids, forget the money. I'm the happiest guy in the world, right? They're going to remember me forever.
This I got to interject, right? Because you've opened up some things here because I want to jump rails right now. And uh fair warning, this is a little bit of a rant on my part, and then I want to suck Steve and Alex into the conversation. One of the terms that I use all the time is this idea that sales is a craft. Um, just like anything else might be a craft for other people, and it is for us. It's not a job. It's not even a career. It's a craft. And unfortunately, there are many people that claim to be salespeople that give sales a bad name, and that still annoys me. And that's my rant a little bit. And so, what we have seen, right? Because we are when someone tries to understand what it is that we do, I don't care what you do. They come and they equate you. Oh, you're one of those appointment people, right? And then, right?
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
and it's like then you're like, well, yes, and then unfortunately, like then they put you in the big box of all the terrible appointment people that they've ever dealt with in the past,
Yep.
whether or not they've used them or they have been what I call a victim to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Of,
Right.
of
Right.
these people, right? And so a lot of I shouldn't say well, I will say a lot. More than half of our clients that come to us have had an experience. And that experience is whether or not they've hired similar or they've had and Steve, you and I talked about this in the past. They've had they extrapolate a sales experience as a buyer, right? And they go, "That's selling." Like what I just went through, like the used car salesman, all of us. Here's the word I want to put on the table for us to discuss. Guarantee, right? That comes up all the time. Usually it comes up because somebody sold them the moon and the stars and didn't deliver the moon and the stars. And so now they're coming to us and they quickly say, "What can you guarantee?"
I have given this so much thought the last 24 hours. I have like it's funny you bring this up because this is so relevant. And I have a response.
I know you do. That's why it's on the table, brother. Go have at it.
Get go for it.
So I have a response. I guarantee that my efforts have never not worked. It's a double negative on purpose.
Yeah, I was going to say,
What
I
I
had to.
do, what I do has always worked. Always. And so that's my guarantee. I don't guarantee 12 meetings a day or 16 leads a month. I don't guarantee a certain amount of prospects. I guarantee that the work that I've done has always worked.
And that's exactly what we guarantee. And I'll wrap it up in a term that I've been using. I guarantee accountability,
I like that.
right? I guarantee accountability. Because that's what we're talking about, right? It's like what's the lever? What's the button? What am I pressing as a client that gives me some sense of accomplishment, achievement, scalability, forwardness, if that's a word. And it really is Ninestone, myself, Alex, we guarantee accountability. And I think you've brought up a definition of what I think guaranteeing accountability is.
I often think about like alternatives related to that. So somebody says, are you going to guarantee these KPIs? And I say, who are you going to hire that's going to guarantee your KPIs? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever done that? Like, I've never hired
Have you
anybody
done
who's
it for someone else?
right. Yeah. Have you? Yeah. I mean, it's like, saying to a spouse or a partner, right? I guarantee these things are going to happen in life. Well, no. I mean, maybe you could try that, but really what you're guaranteeing is that you're going to love somebody, right? And be with them. But that doesn't mean that, you know, the outcomes are guaranteed. Like, find another solution. What is the alternative to guaranteed outcomes? Even the owner of a company doesn't guarantee their KPIs, right? What we do is we say we identify KPIs and we are accountable to them and to the work required to enable that to happen, right?
I like that a ton, Alex, because in history, and I think we can all agree, we've been given KPIs before. And have you ever had this moment where you thought to yourself, don't these seem a little arbitrary? Don't these seem like the numbers somebody else made up based off of their experiences? And now I'm about to go apply them and realize that it either works, doesn't work, or is somewhere in the middle, right? I think no matter what, we're all going to find that the KPIs given don't match what Tom is capable of doing, what Alex, myself are capable of doing.
Well, and we had a prospect
Right.
who brought to us KPIs of sales because they believed that they knew sales. And half of me was like, that's ridiculous and silly. Why are we having this conversation? And the other half of me is like, we should just sign this deal because this is a slam dunk. And the KPI was, how many emails are you going to send out a day?
Right. Yep.
Right. So part of me is like, what's that got to do with revenue generation or pipeline? And at the same time, I'm going, I don't know. How about 1,000?
Yeah. Sound good?
5,000.
Sound good. Yeah.
Would you like 1,000? Will you hire me if I send 1,000 emails a day?
Right.
Because then I just turn the machine on and you let me know how it's going. And that'll be
I
10
can see
grand a
the
month,
email sending.
right? That'll be 10 cents an email. Or I don't, right? I mean, it just gets silly so quickly.
There's not enough discussion about following this topic to its logical progression of thought
Amen.
or to its finality.
So I want to piggyback off of what Alex said on the alternatives. So the alternatives are not limitless, but limited. So you're an owner. A, keep doing what you're doing as an owner, and then you get what you get. Matter of fact, you can almost guarantee because you have history of getting whatever you're getting. 1. 2, go go hire a marketing salesperson, full-time, benefits, W-2, have at it.
Those are not the same people, by the way, Tom. I don't think so. Those are a marketing person or a salesperson.
No,
Right.
I know. What I'm saying though is then when you give them that job at $200,000 a year, you say, okay, well then what are you going to guarantee me? You'll know the answer to that. Or you get the alternative, which is, one of us, right? And now I am kind of being a little bit pitchy. And the reason I'm being pitchy is not because I'm necessarily trying to pitch a service, is I want everyone that's listening to understand the reasons that we say and do the things that we do,
Yeah.
right? Because we all want to provide value.
We all say that. Yeah. That's true.
The only way you're going to provide value is by uh, providing a situation that is the best of all alternatives. And I think that is the fundamental end of the story, is a guarantee around accountability based upon what Steve said, the past of what he guarantees that the results of accountability he's achieved and ourselves, which I think is the culmination of what it is that we're talking about.
So if you take that, right, take these ideas and bring it back to what does an owner of a business, right, or an executive usually say? They'll say, okay, I need to build the sales team. So how do they do that? Let's talk about that. Like, how do we take the ideas that we've shared, because we all build sales teams? How do they do that? What should they do next?
Let's flip it around and jumping right in and say, let's say what they shouldn't do next. Don't hire a sales rep right away.
Yeah, say more
That's
about that.
the biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake that you can make, because Now what you think you're doing, I've heard this so many times, what you actually think you're doing is you think you're hiring a sales rep to come in and figure out the sales process
Yep.
when you yourself have never staged, codified, or figure out your own sales process. So you have nothing to delegate to them. You want to talk about breaking scale before scale ever happens, Alex? That's the definition of it. Go give a project to somebody that can't be figured out quickly, and then go send them to the wolves to go get their teeth kicked in without a process, and then report back to you, I don't have any real revenue for you except for the dumb luck deals I've brought in. But by the way, I've figured out what works, and now I can get to work on a real process. It just lengthens the process. So don't just hire a rep.
You know, we've worked with, in the last 5 years, numerous companies that have done that. They hire a rep and they say, why doesn't my rep use HubSpot? And we'll say, do you have any processes in HubSpot for your rep? Did you give them any processes?
Right.
No.
Right. This is it.
No, we didn't give them any processes. What resources do you give them? Nothing. They're supposed to sell.
Well, game a login.
I gave them a login.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So often we have
Yeah.
to undo what you're talking about, right?
Right. And it's time consuming, and it erodes again. It erodes at it's not even a fault thing. It erodes at the value that is being provided once deals start coming in. Because what's the term you use, Dr. Tom? Future pacing?
Correct.
It paces out the future quite a bit. It
Mhm.
pushes things off.
Okay, so don't hire a
You're
sales
not
rep.
being kind. You're not being kind to your future self or your future
There we go.
employees.
Right.
Right.
So
So
step-
again, I want to go back to alternatives. I'm sorry, Alex.
Well, I'm still at step 1. What is step 2? But you can talk about alternatives. What's step 2? Step 1 is don't
what
hire.
I'm saying, no, I'm still in step 1.
Don't hire. Yeah.
No, I'm doing step 1 on the alternatives as well, right? Where if you have somebody that you've hired, there are 3 things that will happen. A, they will do it correctly. B, they will do it incorrectly. Or C, they won't do anything. Right? Those are the there's no more, right? Those are the 3 things.
Right.
So 2/3 of that is bad. Meaning doing the wrong thing and not doing anything. So by definition, what Steve just mentioned, don't hire a sales rep, because if you do, 2/3 of what they will do will not benefit your business.
Right.
Wow.
The majority. That's scary. Right.
Wow. So if I had
Right.
just known that, right? Not only as a business owner, but in my corporate experience. Okay, what to do with that? What's number 2?
My first take is Alex, like, let's take you and I, for example. We sit down maybe multiple times and we plot out every single client interaction. Where did it start? Where did it end? How do we replicate the best ones? How do we get rid of the worst ones? And I mean, when I talk about where and how, I'm like, was it at a trade show? Was it virtually? Was it on LinkedIn? Was it a cold call? Was it a referral? Was it an email? Whatever. Go back to the genesis of that client interaction and focus on what's replicatable. Now, I'm going to disagree with Tom here a little bit and say that I mostly agree that doing the wrong things is don't do the wrong things. But there is some element of iteration and discovery of new things that we don't know if they work or not. And so there's always going to be some level of failure there, right?
Well,
And I
there's an
think,
assumption of governance, though, that you
Right, right.
imply, where I'm suggesting that there isn't any. When you go hire a person
Right.
and you, Steve, expect that person to figure it out with no governance,
Right.
then that's when bad things happen. You're suggesting,
Correct. Yeah.
iterate, but that means you're governing that iteration.
Correct. Right. Exactly. If we don't know if a trade show is going to work out, but I say, Alex, we got to go to this trade show. It looks like the vendors are all supportive of us and the target market is there. There's no reason we wouldn't make any ROI. And then we learn what didn't work, but it was for all the right reasons.
So the sort of the second perspective of, I don't know what Steve, you want to go the second not to do or the second to do as in the steps of building a sales team?
So I think it goes back to the knowing the genesis story of every client interaction, then codifying the stages. And this could be visualized like a pipeline, like in HubSpot or Go High Level, but it's not limited to that. It's what is said during those phases. that moves the deal further down the pipe, out of the pipe, up the pipe, whatever, right? So there's a whole bunch of intrinsic knowledge. What's the term you've used, Tom? How sales is a craft. There's a whole bunch of craftsman words, language, intelligent things that need to be used and said inside of each phase. And that's the next thing to pull out of you. So maybe that's 3, right? Is
So yeah,
getting that
and
knowledge.
so let's go back to 2, where you talk about trying all these things and codifying the good ones and getting rid of the other ones, right? It's like, so let's analyze just for a second, and again, it's like the 3 of us are talking, but people are listening in. Let's analyze this whole idea of referral selling, right? Because I'm gonna put networking on the shelf for a second, and I'm just gonna say we're gonna do referral selling. And arguably, I think the 3 of us would agree that that's a very effective way of selling in general, right? So then the question is, what are the traits or characteristics of referral selling that make it work that other ways do not have those traits or characteristics? Right? So, I mean, I'll start, right? You have this idea of trust. If I like you and I trust you and I trust your character, and you tell me, Tom, there's a guy over here that I trust, there's an association that comes with it that I completely cut through that, and then now they're trustworthy to me. So there's a referral characteristic that, for example, something like cold calling or cold email or even warm calling does not have. What are other ones? Because what I would suggest is referral selling is this thing, but if you could sell with those characteristics that may not necessarily be referral selling, I still think you'll win.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying is this kind of like cool concept, which is like if we can quantify and label the characteristics of referral selling and find them elsewhere in a process, what are those and how do we get it?
Amen. That's exactly what I'm saying, brother. Right? And so that's my point, right? So I think everybody lumps them in, right? It's easy. Hey, it's a handle. Referral selling, here's a handle, blah, blah, blah. And we all
Right.
know what that means. But then the question is, okay, it is good. Okay. We all agree it is. Then the question is, what are those characteristics and that can I find them somewhere else in the wild, if you will? That potentially will give us a new avenue.
So, like, give us a story, an example, so that I can wrap my mind around what you're talking about.
Pick me, pick
Well, I mean,
me.
I think, yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
Tom, I don't want to take all the time. Go ahead. You have one queued up.
No. Go ahead, brother. You're the guest. I get to
So,
talk about.
I think this is directly applicable because it is the referral trust building that Tom is talking about, but applied not in a referral situation. Um, I'm an outbound guy. I love relationships, and I will always lean more on networking and referrals than I will on outbound. But that said, this device and this device have always been friends to me. The devices that connect me to other people quickly are my best friends. And so I'm talking about cold calling, guys. But cold calling has been done wrong for a long time. There are those that are catching up and building relationships quickly on the phone, but they're in the minority. They're in the minority, and I am in the minority. When I pick up the phone to make a cold call, the phrase I use to explain my cold call method, forget about pattern breaks and forget about all these twists and turns and NLP. I subscribe to a lot of them. I'm not saying those are bad, but the overall method is I cold call to generate a referral. Because if I'm on the phone with a prospect for 28 minutes, Alex, what do you think I'm talking about with them?
I don't know, man.
I've gotten into kids, passions. I've gotten into what they like about their business, what their roadblocks are. And by the time I have them at the 30-minute mark, which is wild for one call, right? I'm no longer Mr. Salesperson. I'm now calling to create the referral for my customer. My customer was my referral partner the whole time, but I have to get to this trust place, which is what Tom is talking about. So I've moved trust from referral to cold calling. And that's a skill set that took years to get to. And when I
And
teach people this, they're like,
that sounds so counterintuitive to
bingo.
anybody
Yep.
that has this terminology. Those two things never in the same sentence. You won't find
Never.
those in the wild.
No,
Did a
Right.
training last week. My SDR said this was the best training I've experienced in years
Yeah. So
because we flip it on its head.
Yep. Tom slacked me a message yesterday that said, cold. It was a LinkedIn message that said, cold calling does not work for my business. I'm guessing you'd say, not necessarily,
Not necessarily true.
right?
I have never not successfully sold for a B2B business via cold call. I know that sounds very strange to say the way I did it, but I did it on purpose. And this isn't a rah-rah Steve moment. It's just
No,
taking
it's
the
not,
paradigm of
and
cold
it's
calling and
okay
flipping
if
it on
it's
its
a
head.
rah-rah Steve moment. You're the guest, and there's a reason why we have you on this podcast, because you're, what do the kids call them? Truth bombs? I don't know, right? Whatever they say.
Truth bombs. So,
It's like,
Mic drops, truth bombs. Yeah.
so here, I tend to be kind of like the brass tacks, where's the rubber meet the road kind of guy. Like, what are we going to go do? Right. So, because this happens to me all the time. Business owners that I know who own successful companies or are starting new companies, or people who are coming out of corporate America, right? They've had a very successful corporate career, let's say, or even in nonprofit, and now they're going to go start their own business. This happens. I talk to multiple people like that every week. They're starting their own company, right? What is our advice to them that says, like, if we were to do it differently, right? If you were to do it differently to build a team that is scalable, why don't you think about it like this? What would you say?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question. To build a team that's scalable. Because it starts with you. So you don't have a team yet. Right? So first thing is give yourself a gut check and say, this is going to be hard because I simultaneously have to go do something in faith, not knowing if it'll work. And when it does work, do two things. Even though it worked, figure out if it was luck or skill. And if it didn't work, figure out why. And was it luck or lack of skill? Because sometimes luck goes the other way, right? So it's constant codification. You have to make yourself a conscious competent, is what I'm saying, Alex. So you have to go do something not knowing if it's going to work and study whether or not it worked and why. And once you know whether or not it worked and why, keep going and iterate over and over and over again. Right? That's my starting point on a very complicated question, which my hat is off to you on.
Well, and I'll throw my hat in the ring on this one, which is, there's probably, if you ask me this question, I would say something maybe a little bit different each day, right? But one of the core things, that I would say is I would bring around me advisors, people I trust, who are good at the things that I'm not. So I have my singular thing, which started in marketing automation, right? But I wasn't a salesperson, so I'd find a you or a Tom and say, okay, how do I make what I'm good at go beyond me, right? And I would start asking those questions from the beginning,
Right.
right? So that as I hire and as I design systems, right, and as I make investments, right, there are some advisors around me speaking into the way that that's done, right? Which is not just about make the Alex show, right? It's build the company outside of me. I didn't do that, right? I was like, yeah, I'm good at this stuff. I'm just going to keep doing it. And now I got a whole bunch more work. And now what do I do with all that?
Well, you just level the playing field for every person listening in. It's like, oh, these guys have it all figured out. Like, no. We learned the hard way, right? We learned just like everybody else.
How about you, Tom? What would you do? What would you say to somebody?
I mean, it would be a variation of what you just said. But the funny thing is, if you look at the traits of an entrepreneur, um, it comes with all sorts of confidence, ego, all the stuff, and no one can do it better than me type of thing. And you bring that, and the next thing you know, you are doing everything. I mean, that's the thing. You can't measure yourself outside of yourself. The term I like to use, I mean, it's a term that's out there, but I like to use is, "You're in the jar, you can't read the label."
That's good.
right? The label says, go get other people, right? But you're in the jar. You're like, hey, I'm the thing. Good for me,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Yeah.
But the label says, go get some help and go get smart people and all this other stuff. And it's not like you don't want to, you just can't. And the next
Right.
thing you know, somebody has to come around or you and says, hey, did you know you've been in the jar the whole time and you can't seem to get out?
And that
Um,
is, this is something like related to building a sales team, Tom. You've said many times to our clients, where I've been on those calls where it's difficult to build a sales team from within the jar. Like if you're
that's right.
the team, if you've been doing this for 5 years, right, and now you want to build a sales process, it's difficult to kind of see it from a perspective that enables that process. And a lot of times, Steve, it's just hard for people to even spend the time. You said you got to just figure out what you do and what works and what doesn't. And I can't tell you how many folks I know, including me, would say, okay, cool, I don't have time for that. That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm
Yep.
not going to do that because I don't
That's
have time
fair.
for that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I get too tactical
Gentlemen,
sometimes, but that's a good
I'm
thing.
sorry, the clock on the wall says we're coming to an end. And I think part of it here is that, we're all friends. We work together all the time. And for those that are listening right now, you're basically listening to a daily conversation between the three of us, and it just happens
Sure.
to be
Yeah.
recorded. Steve, where can they
Yes.
find you? What do you want to? You got people listening. They like what you said. How do they connect?
Yeah. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Stephen Wallace, I believe, is my name on LinkedIn. Steve or Steve Wallace. Look me up on LinkedIn. And then you can reach me at, ready for this, guys? Steve at b2brev.co.
Steve with a V, Steve.
Yes. STEVE at b2brev.co. That's not B2B as in business to business, but back to basics. Little twist
Back
there.
to base. I
Aren't
like
you?
that, man.
Aren't you
Yeah.
Back to
like?
basics.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can say that, I think having partners like Steve who care about the impact, like you mentioned earlier, the impact to somebody's business, the impact that that person or that team can make then to their community, to their family, to the other people around them, right? That makes a big difference. Having somebody who cares about the impact and is accountable to that. And Steve, you've done that for us and for our clients, and we're grateful for that. So thank you.
Likewise. And me for you guys. Truly.
I'm Dr. Tom on behalf of Alex and Steve. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for next month. We'll have some other fun guests on the show. Take care.
You got it. Bye now.
Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. Click here for more great content to help you scale smarter. If this episode was valuable for you, share it with a friend and drop a comment below. And when you're ready to scale, visit us at ninestonepartners.com. Until next time, keep stacking, keep scaling.